Man City are next in action on Thursday night when they welcome Serie A champions Napoli to the Etihad Stadium for their opening league phase fixture in the Champions League. While Man City enter this contest after beating rivals Man United 3-0 in the Premier League on Sunday, Napoli have made a strong start to the defence of their title after winning all three matches, including a 3-1 victory at Fiorentina last Saturday. Now, this could prove to be a tricky fixture for City, who, of course, struggled in the league phase last season before losing to Real Madrid in the playoff round. Stephen, what do you think we can expect from this match against Napoli? How hopeful are you that City can actually start their campaign with a positive result?
Yeah, the Etihad gives me a little bit of confidence. There is a lot of stories and a lot of narratives there, and I think football, the beauty of football is that logic often goes out the window, and stories and emotion take over, which is usually great for your side, but sometimes can be negative. Like De Bruyne is the return, that's the headline there. Kevin De Bruyne returning with Rasmus Højlund, a top ex-United player, Scott McTominay, the Serie A player of the season, ex-United player. If one of those guys doesn't score, something's gone wrong in the world of football. And I don't want it to happen, but it's almost nailed on. It's almost nailed on that De Bruyne is going to put it on Højlund's head at some point. And if it goes in, I don't know. Maybe Donnarumma's a difference there, but there is a narrative waiting to be formed there, and they have quality. We know how good Napoli are. Won the league last year. Quality all over the pitch. Obviously, they've strengthened with De Bruyne because how would he not be? He's a world class player. And yeah, we got to take him very seriously. It's going to be a really emotional game. I don't know too much about how Napoli play. I'll be honest with you. I've not studied them yet. But they are a great side, arguably the best Italian side, with players who are resurgent in McTominay and Højlund, who scored the weekend on his debut as well. And one we have to take it very seriously.
Yeah, exactly. So this is by no means an easy fixture. Man City will, of course, be regarded as favourites considering it's at home, and they did win the last two Champions League games against Napoli in 2017. It was in the group stage. They beat them 2-1 at home and 4-2 away from home. Now, of course, we can't talk about this game between City and Napoli without mentioning a certain Kevin De Bruyne who
Yeah.
joined Napoli in the summer after a legendary decade-long spell at Man City. And the playmaker is still going strong at 34 years of age, and he's made a positive start to life in Italy, scoring two goals in his first three league games. Are you mentally prepared, Stephen, for the possibility of De Bruyne haunting his former club? I don't think City would have imagined preparing to come up against De Bruyne so soon after him leaving. But how do you think City will go about nullifying his threat on Thursday?
I'm meant to be prepared because I expect it. It'd be silly not to. As I was just saying, football does that. It creates these stories, and I think De Bruyne will have something to prove to City. Actually, look, De Bruyne, I think he gets it. I think he had his chin knocked out a little bit by City moving on from him, and I get it would have hurt. He didn't want to move. He didn't want to move his family yet, and thankfully, mercifully for me, he moved abroad and to a great club like Napoli and didn't stay in the Premier League. Um, I'm expecting it to be an emotional return for Kevin De Bruyne. I'm expecting him to play well as well because he has something to prove to Guardiola and Manchester City's board members, not necessarily his teammates, and maybe not necessarily Pep either, because it's obviously a director of football thing, slightly above him. I think he probably gets it, to an extent. I think he probably understands that City want to move on. It was an emotional decision, but for him. Taking out his hands, of course, but I think he understands where City are, that they're trying to rebuild, and he's got a lot of wages, and he's the wrong age of 30, and so wrong side of 30. So I think he understands, but at the same time, he's a winner, Kevin De Bruyne, and he's an incredibly passionate man. I'd be amazed if he doesn't look at this game as something for him to, show just the rest of the world just how good he is, and that it isn't fair to him to be a cast off of Manchester City right now. And I don't think anyone did anything wrong for what it's worth. I think it was the right call. Even with City's not being at the best, I still think it was the right call. You have to move on at some point. Um, but this is going to be his night, and it's going to be about him. Like he'll get the biggest cheer of anyone in the ground, rightfully so. And I sort of hope a small part of me hope he scores, but we win like 3-1 or something like that. I don't mind him having a good game as long as it's not to the detriment of City. I'm expecting him to have a really good game, and honestly, I would be amazed if he doesn't do something special because he's Kevin De Bruyne and it's just set up for him. But if anyone's going to win against us and it's De Bruyne, I'd sort of forgive him, even if I'd be annoyed at City for doing it. But I don't want him to fail. I want City to win, if that makes sense. I don't mind De Bruyne succeeding in this game as long as City win.
Yeah, very strange to see him as an opposing player at the Etihad. But yeah, he could well be starting that game for Napoli. And another attacker in contention to play for Napoli is Man United, former Man United striker Rasmus Højlund, who, as you mentioned before, scored his first goal for Napoli at the weekend. Do
Yeah.
you have any concerns at all about the possibility of Højlund playing against Man City in this one?
Yeah, as I said, I think he obviously started he started his time at Napoli, convinced with a goal at the weekend, and he'll feel like he has something to prove as well. And up against Premier League opposition, I expect his confidence will be high, and there's always that new club boon as well, where you're very excited, and he's playing alongside very confident players, league winning players, and obviously he's got one of the all-time great creative players behind him. And this game will mean a little bit something from him as well, given he played for United. It's against City, it's back against a Premier League side. It's a good chance for him to maybe even prove United wrong as well, because it's Premier League opposition and one of the best Premier League sides. So I think largely he'll be focused on his own game, not worried too much what others think. But it'll play into his mind a little bit. Why he's human? Why would it not? So yeah, I think we have to take him very seriously because he's physically good. At one point he was a decent goal scorer, and it's a league he knows. He did come from Serie A in the first place, so I think he's very comfortable in his skin in this league, and I think it'll be a different Højlund than the one we saw at United because the league suits him better, and he's free of the malaise of Man United anyway.
Yeah, and I'm sure he'd relish playing with De Bruyne as well, feeding him lots of balls in the final third. And remains to be seen if he does start. They've got Napoli have got the guy called Lorenzo Luca as well, who stands at 6 foot 7 inches tall, so he could be a handful if he does
Wow.
start. But we'll have to see about that one. And in terms of City's lineup, how many changes do you think could be made to that side that beat Man United at the weekend? Who would you like to see start for City in this one?
Let me just remind myself of who was on the bench. So it depends who's available because we've got a
Mm.
few people missing. I I don't think we'll see Rodri play this game. My gut is saying that I don't think you can play 3 games in a week, and Arsenal, I think it's probably going to be more important for City. I might be wrong there, but I think Rodri will sit this one out potentially with Nico Gonzalez back in the side. I think Savinho might actually get a start, potentially. I think Nicola Riley will start again. Ake can see it play against Arsenal, potentially. I would be surprised, by the way, we saw, maybe not, but Trafford could be an outside bet if we get Champions League start, actually. I don't expect it, but don't be surprised if Trafford plays this game weirdly and then Donnarumma comes in for Arsenal. Maybe not. He maybe wants to feed him in naturally. But I look at the bench and there's not a lot of changes I can see being made. I don't know if he'll play Kusanov in this one or against Arsenal, but I think he's going to play one of them. And if it's not him, I think he might play Nunes against Napoli potentially. And looking at the bench though, you look at Mikasa and Mafuni, two lads there, young lads. I don't see them. Nico Gonzalez is starting, maybe Savinho. Oscar Bob could get a start. I think Oscar Bob might get a start in this one, and Bernardo might be rested because I think he'll play against Arsenal. Bernardo, I don't think Bernardo actually looked that great actually, unfortunately against United. I think his legs caught up to him a little bit. But we haven't got the numbers to make a lot of changes right now. The bench is already looking a bit threadbare, and there's a whole bunch of people not available. So I'm not expecting a vast amount of changes, but just maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah, and finally for this game, can I get a score prediction from you for City against Napoli?
Um, I think City will win this one actually. I'm expecting a lot of goals, like 3-2 or something like that. And De Bruyne is going to be involved. Højlund's going to be involved. McTominay, yeah, I think they'll all be involved, but I think City will outscore them. I think Haaland right now, I think Foden will play again, and I think he'll be really good. And I'm expecting, yeah, hopefully Doku to build on that performance as well, which was really, really good. And I think that would just be about be enough for City to find the energy. Yeah, I'm gonna go for 3-2 City.